Alright, I am back with an Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree video. I had review access for the last week and a half, 2 weeks or so, and I just published my review in progress this morning. I won't be playing any footage here because A, I don't know what the exact spoiler rules are for FromSoft. B, a lot of people consider anything spoilers. And C, I don't know how to transfer and record footage from PS5. So here we are. It's just me. And as expected, this game is destroying Metacritic. Last I looked, it's at a 95, which is completely unsurprising. My review in progress did not give it a score. I still have more work to do, I think, and yet, it's a 9 or a 10. I mean, that much is pretty clear to me. I just didn't want to slap on a score without, getting a little bit more into it. I did have, a good time window with it, but I was also, balancing time with Final Shape season launch stuff, so that, made me not as available to do everything that I wanted to. Also, I just got fucking lost a lot. This is a really funny aspect of reviewing a FromSoft game, is because it is very fun to just explore and, try to find everything on your own, which is all I did. That's what I did in my 30 hours or whatever it's been so far. This is a massive expansion. And yet you kind of hit limits. Like, I would spend, 5 hours trying to figure out how to get down to like a part of the map or like a map fragment or something, and just be like, well, I don't know. Like, I guess I'll wait for someone to figure it out later. Elden Ring, above all else, is like it's a single player game, but it's also a community game where like everyone comes together to carve out all these secrets from every corner of the map. And like, it is fun to try and find as many as you can myself. And I found a ton, but to fully get everything out of it, to answer some looming questions, so you're not beating your head against the wall for 12 hours. I'm excited to see other people explore, so I can get a little bit of a boost in some things I've not been able to access, but also, just surprises that I wouldn't have found on my own otherwise, as I know there are plenty of these. I found a lot of stuff myself. I fought a ton of bosses. I've gone to some really interesting zones. This map is it's big, like even like landmass size. Maybe it's not, the biggest chunk of the main map, but it is so dense and there's so much verticality to it. And there is some level of like the underground, like you see on the base map, but not the same. It's like not a totally new dimension, at least not most of the time. But if you see a landmass or something, there might be a river that runs all the way under that or something, and you have to figure out how to get down there. And suddenly you're spending 2 hours, down there, and you come out right by the starting zone, and you just never even knew you could do that. Another thing, I climbed this giant mountain on the east side of the map for like 2 hours, and when I got to the top, after fighting a bunch of mini bosses, there was a boss. Cannot beat him. Boy, can I not beat him. I gotta power up and enhance my strategies and all this stuff. But there were a lot of tough boss fights that I did manage to get through in the end, with my cheap magic build that I have not respec'd or anything, and my good buddy Mimic Tear. The way the game handles power and your build is pretty interesting. I think this was well designed, because the way they set this up is that you cannot really over level for this or be that significantly under leveled for it. To kill Mog, to even get into the thing, you're supposed to be like, I don't know, decently high level in the base game. I'd say at least, the recommended is 80, but this is a game where people beat stuff at level 1 just because they're good. It depends, but you want to be like, have something of a kit together, I guess, to enter. But, these people that are level 200, 300, 400, 500, like, you're not an advantage because they sort of negate all of that. And instead they replace it with 2 currencies, Squad tree fragments. I don't know how to pronounce it. They never say it out loud, I don't think. You find those, and they give you just better defense and better attack power against enemies in the Shadow Realm, and only the Shadow Realm. And then there's spirit ashes or something that boost your summons with the same thing. That makes them stronger, it makes them attack more, blah blah blah. And I mean, essentially the main point of powering up around this map is to find those things, and a lot of those will be at like kind of the main sites of grace. Like, there are the story based ones that kind of like guide you on your journey that are marked by these like giant crosses, and those will almost always have at least one tree fragment to power you up. However, there are a ton of these hidden all over the map, and sometimes it's like really obvious, like there's a giant mini boss guarding two columns with something shiny in the middle, and like, oh, there it is. And then other times it's like at the deepest, darkest dungeon you've ever seen behind a waterfall. Like, so it's a wide range of how you'll find these, and it creates a little bit of a weird situation because like I wasn't really sure what the point was of leveling up too much, like baseline, like the old levels. Like I'm level 175 or something after beating, the main game after 100 hours or whatever it was. But when I was getting, pushing to 180, like, does that even matter? It felt like all that mattered was really finding those fragments. So like power level, as far as I know, power leveling like your normal levels doesn't really, is that helping or hurting you one way or the other here? So I think this is an interesting way to do it. I don't think anyone should really complain about this because like, what did you want to over level for this and just two-shot all the bosses? Like, come on. And so this way it creates a real challenge, but you can still overcome that challenge if you do a lot of exploration, if you find all these things for upgrades, so that's fun. In terms of enhancing your build or whatever, things are interesting here because I almost felt like I wished that I started over with a new character. I didn't have time. I don't have time to go through the base game and beat Mog and do all that, but after these hours, a couple dozen hours, I wasn't really finding that much to change my build. I got one new spell that's like of the class that I have invested in, like it's like a moon power bomb move that joins my other moon moves, which is pretty good. But that's sort of it. That's the only new spell I added that I'm actually using. I found, I think, a couple of new armor pieces that were better than my old ones. No new weapons yet. They do give you a little room to experiment because the old smithing materials, the smithing stones, and then ghost wart for the summons, like they're more prevalent than they used to be. So you can, max up your weapons pretty decently if you want to like test out a new one that drops. And like there's some really cool ones. You've seen a lot of these in the trailers and stuff. The giant katana, I killed someone and found that. There's a hammer. Some guys shooting an explosive crossbow. I don't know. I don't think I got that one. But it's, there's a lot of experimentation you can do, although this is a game where it's like you can't go back and reload your save and undo something you invested in. So like you are a little pot committed, and that's another thing of like, should I max out this new spear dash? Like, so it's, I'm curious to see how that kind of meta shakes out in terms of like what the best new things are compared to the others, because that's something I just don't know yet. The environment and level design here is stellar. It's really stunning. I think it's better than the base game in terms of how things are designed, because they weave in and out of each other to such an absurd, like complicated, interesting degree that I would revisit like one castle like 5, 6, 7 times, and I'd still be finding new stuff inside what is, a relatively small space, like new significant things. And that's true of the base game to some extent. It's even more amplified here. And, these big, you see some giant high cliff you can't reach, you can reach it. You see something 2 miles below you that's like little specks of trees, you can reach that. Unless you're staring at a literal bottomless pit, chances are you can probably go to that place, and it's just sort of a mystery of figuring out exactly how to get there. Sometimes the answer is jumping off a cliff, surprisingly enough, even if you think you're being trolled by the advice signs. There are so many things to like about this. If you liked the base game, if you did not like the base game, there's not really, why would they have changed too much, given how well received the original was? I would say the one thing that newer players might appreciate is sort of the leveling of the playing field in terms of power. Again, there are some significant gatekeeping things to prevent you from just hopping directly into this if you haven't really played the base game. But once you do get there, you're not behind in the same sense as you might be in other games. And this is really goddamn hard. There are some absurdly hard bosses here that I think that this was supposed to be harder than the base game. That was like one of the goals. I've run into a few of them. I cannot beat them. I cannot kill those giant walking fire dudes that you saw in the trailer. There's a bunch of them. they do a stomp move that does an AoE blast that's like the size of the entire countryside. I think you're supposed to like get up on a cliff, and I think you like throw explosives into their heads. I don't know, but like my normal spells and stuff are not really cutting it with them. The story bosses are okay. Many of them I did beat my first time. Some took me longer, and by the end, yeah, they're you'll see. But it's a stunning achievement. It's huge. It's dozens of hours easily. A lot of the reviewers put in double what I did, 60, 65 hours in a week and a half. So, playing it like a full-time job. And I would have put more time in if my schedule wasn't split. But needless to say, I echo a lot of the praise that this got from essentially every outlet. It's not a shock that this is as good as it is. I think it is a real contender for Game of the Year, despite being an expansion. That's a whole separate debate about whether expansions can be considered Game of the Year. But like when my thing of the year was Phantom Liberty, I gave my Game of the Year to Cyberpunk as sort of a workaround. We can talk about the logistics of that, but given the slate of games that are out this year and given the quality of this expansion, it's a real contender. And it's, 5 times as long as some other games that would be nominated. So if you're excited about Shadow of the Erdtree, you're going to be excited to play it and you're going to enjoy it. This seems redundant, and I'm not the most articulate about things I like a lot. I think it's easier to like criticize in some ways and like find things to nitpick with, but this, other than your kind of usual frustrations of like, oh, this is too cheap and too hard, and like, oh, this place is, I'm getting lost too much. Like, these aren't real complaints. Like, it's kind of part of the package. So you sort of just have to roll with it. But I'm excited to see what everyone thinks. I'm excited to see what everyone discovers that I have not been able to discover, because I know there are so many secret things on this map, and talking to a handful of journalists and getting a reviewer guide from FromSoft is like barely scratching the surface. And like, I tried to like find as much stuff as I can, but like eventually in some areas I was just running into a brick wall, and I'm like, I don't know how to get up there. I give up. I'll find out later. But yeah, so that's my initial thoughts here. I will probably circle back around here once the game is launched. I will do some sort of early tips thing probably on launch day about things I wish I knew and all that. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.